Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a first perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty interesting show for you guys that we want you guys to stick around for. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, this is going to be an episode that I think a lot of us are going to enjoy going through together. So, as y'all know, Stephen A. Smith recently made headlines because of a segment on ESPN First Take that was centered on an image, about 60-plus-year-old image, 65-year-old image of Jerry Jones that was on Earth by the Washington Post, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But I also saw it. I actually first found out about that story on CNN when I saw a video on CNN anyway. And it had Jerry Jones pretty much at a rally where they were trying to stop some black students from integrating into a school. And he was there in the background. And I believe in the image, he was about 14 to 15 years of age. So they brought that topic to ESPN First Take, and they were discussing it. And when it was Stephen A. Smith's turn to talk about it, he basically expressed his frustration about the fact that an image that was 60 plus years old was being brought up today, and for us to go back and relitigate something that happened in the past. And he was very upset that people were trying to do that. And he virtually spent no time talking about essentially what he saw in the image. He was more upset about the fact that people were discussing it today. And of course, once the community that Stephen A. Smith originates from caught a whiff of his comments, people pushed back. And they were like, and we were one of these people, by the way. And my basic issue with his response at that moment was simply this. Why was it the first thing that came to your mind why was the first thing that came to your mind to defend Jerry Jones at that instant? You spent more time talking about how you thought it was wrong that they brought up an image from 60 years ago instead of talking about what you saw in the image. And the contrast we tried to paint was whenever it comes to issues maybe surrounding Kyrie Irving and other athletes, you always have this zeal to go at them. You never want to have a nuanced conversation about it. It's always black and white. But in this particular instance, you wanted to take a different approach. That was the issue essentially blacks had with it, period, in the story. There's no other thing about it. Now, yesterday on ESPN First Take, through some research we did yesterday, Stephen A. Smith alluded to the fact that he was going to be responding to people that were critical of him, especially about the things that he had to say surrounding that Jerry Jones story. And he was going to respond to them on his podcast called No Mercy. No Mercy, right? So yesterday, I was able to unearth this segment of him responding to people like myself and others that were critical of him for what he did, about that, surrounding that story. So what we want to do is we want to play exactly what he had to say. It's very lengthy, but we want you guys to listen to it in its entirety, and then we're going to come back and react to it. So take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say here.
One can only be called a sellout and a coon and all of this other stuff, but so much before you feel compelled to respond, particularly when you're a black man. Normally, I wouldn't do that. I might have a comment here, there, and then move on. It's not like I lose sleep over this. I love when people try to define blackness and act like they've got, they got ownership papers on it. You get to define and decide who's black and who's not and all of this other stuff. But certain things need to be spoken about because, you see, I have a 2-hour television show every weekday. I'm live on the air of First Take on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to noon. That's 10 hours a week. I'm a co-host on NBA Countdown. It's on twice a week. I've got NBA and Stephen A's World. That's on sporadically, about 8 to 10 shows a year. And I've got this podcast, which I own. I'm in control of the content. I decide what subjects we gonna tackle and what we'll avoid. When you consider that level of reach, do you know what the hell I could do if I wanted to every day? I could be indecent. I can be vicious. I could be somebody that just doesn't give a damn. Contrary to what folks may want to think, I've never been that dude. Yeah, I might talk about your game. I might talk about an act that you committed. But what I never do is engage in character assassination and believe that I have a license to use whatever moment I want to use to define who you actually are. I don't do that. Now, if a preponderance of evidence based on repetitive behavior gives an indication of what your character may be, okay, that's different. But I'm not going to go off an incident and try to castigate you and demonize you and what have you. That's just not my MO. Now, I made news earlier last week, and certainly people didn't accord me that luxury. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, is somebody I purportedly came to the defense of. I didn't view it that way, but if y'all want to label it that way, so be it. Jerry Jones is 80 years old. There was a report, an article in the Washington Post where they were talking about Jerry Jones and how much he could do because of his cachet, his influence, his power in the #1 sports league in all of America, if not all of the world, although some people would say real soccer is bigger than the National Football League, which is a form of soccer, or football rather, because soccer in Europe is football and it's football here in America. That's the National Football League. That's what football is in America. But the NFL is so big. Lately, as of recently evidenced by Germany when Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers showed up and 70,000 packed the house and all of this other stuff, and there was games in Mexico and all of this, people were talking about how Jerry Jones has this influence, such profound influence that he could influence racial tendencies in a positive way in the National Football League, meaning the hiring of black coaches, the hiring of black executives, et cetera, et cetera. And in that same article, there's a picture of Jerry Jones standing in a crowd, a hostile crowd, to say the least, that was opposed to desegregating schools in Little Rock, Arkansas. Ladies and gentlemen, the year was 1957. Jerry Jones was 14 years old, or according to one other report, 15 years old when this happened. And my position was, wait a minute, you gonna pull up a picture of a 14-year-old kid and use that to denigrate him? When the picture was a still picture of him standing in the crowd and looking. That's the reason that we want to sit up there and assume anything about Jerry Jones. I'm not that guy. Is it plausible to believe that he was one of the people trying to prevent the school from being desegregated? Sure, but do we know? We do not. Did we see him throw at anybody? Did we see him spit at anybody? Did we see him commit any kind of vile act? No. That is not what we saw. And because I had the temerity and the unmitigated gall to point that out, I'm a sellout.
Now, let's address this thing properly. Now, from what I was able to glean from his comments, Stephen A. Smith tried to make a bunch of different points. The first point was how he never reduces himself down to the level to attack people's characters. That's one point that he made. Another point that he made was, he was talking about his reach, in media and on TV, the fact that he's on this show, he has this podcast, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think towards the end of that, I think the point he was trying to make was that, if I really wanted to go at people and really shut them down, I could, because of the platform that I had. And then he brought up some other points about the work that he did in the past for, raising money for various students, etc., 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 etc. So let's unpack this one by one. Number one, the first thing I want to discuss is the fact that he's saying that he never got to the point where he started levying insults at people. That's just not the reality. Listen, to me, it's very simple. To me, it's a very, very simple matter that we're dealing with here. In my personal opinion, and in the opinion of many, Stephen A. Smith has zero respect for nobody. He doesn't respect anybody. Forget about what he's saying. We're talking about what he has done and said. Stephen A. Smith has zero respect for anybody. And the ones that he usually has the least amount of respect for, those that look like him, period, end of story. There are numerous examples of this. We can run through them quickly. Number one, you remember the time when Stephen A. Smith went on TV and called Lamar Odom a crackhead? Please help me understand, Stephen A. Smith. How are you analyzing anything by calling a professional athlete a crackhead on TV? You said that. Now, you may think that's in the bounds of covering sports. That's in bounds. To me, that's a direct shot at his character. You call him a crackhead on TV. Number one, you could have said a drug user, or you could not have said it at all. That's number one. Number two, you went on TV. You threatened Kevin Durant and told him that he doesn't want to make an enemy out of you. A similar threat you just put forth again. So you go on TV to threaten people who have disagreements with you. We can go look at another situation. You can look at the Shohei Ohtani comments that got you in major trouble. Then you can look at the comments that you made, the disgusting, despicable, clownish comments you tried to make about those Nigerian players by mispronouncing their names purposefully. And I wonder if you would have had the balls to mispronounce the names of people, or the names of the people that come from a community that hire you. You wouldn't dare. You know exactly who you can mess with. You know that. You wouldn't dare. Your sense will come back to you immediately when it comes to that. That's the first thing. The second thing, when he talked about, all the way his reach and all, my brother, listen. I understand that you're very proud of yourself. You've accomplished a lot in your industry, and it's remarkable and noteworthy. We congratulate you. We salute you. You did accomplish a lot in your field. Please, don't run around and start telling people like you this big wig and I'm making a... Cut it out, please. There are people doing 100 million times better than you. Please stop. Please stop. And they don't flaunt it and tell people all about it. And please stop. The video that we produced when I talked about the Nigerian couple, okay, that was Miami Heat subscribers, that they had season ticket holders. The guy's brother is a multi-billionaire in dollars. In dollars. So please spare us with that. Don't run up here and try to... There are a lot of people that watch your show that are richer than you. Please stop. Don't flaunt and try to flex on the world. Please stop. Please stop. It's distasteful. The next thing I want to address is this. Stephen A. Smith, why are you the only one that's always found yourself in situations where you're always being accused of attacking blacks? Let's talk about the situation you had with Terrell Owens. Why did he just wake up in the morning and say that? Or is it something that a lot of people think? Why are you the only one that found yourself in a public dispute with former NBA player Kwame Brown? Why were you the only one? Why? Are people just making these things up about you? Or are these things that you yourself normally do? It got so bad that one of your colleagues in Jalen Rose asked you, please stop running around and calling these guys scrubs. I would like for you to stop. But for you, it's like, oh, well, it's just entertainment. So in your mind, you get to decide what's in bounds and out of bounds. When you call somebody a scrub, that's not no disrespect. It's no disrespect. To me, the thing is very simple. Blacks feel you don't have the same energy for other groups like the one that you have for your own group. This is what they feel. A lot of them feel that way. A lot of them. In your comments, you show no contrition. Instead, you double down the same way you double down with Kwame Brown. It's the same you. In my personal opinion, I've never met you, could care less to meet you. My personal opinion is this. I think you respect nobody but a select few people. The people you don't talk about, those are the people you respect. The rest of us, you have zero respect for us. To me, I cannot understand a black man standing on TV and making fun of African names. It shows you are lost. You're somebody that originates from the Caribbean. How did those people get to the Caribbean? So for you to feel like it's okay to do that, to me, that was already of an insult, and that's why I drew the line with you, and many did. So please spare us with telling us about, oh, you respect this and you're doing it for the cause. You ain't looking out for nobody. You want to look out for us, defend us when you get up there. Represent us properly. Stop insulting us, stop talking down to us. Why did you get into this whole thing about and later on in that he went about my community, they do this, they do that. My brother, who asks you? You've done enough, you've said enough. We formed an opinion. Let's move on. But don't act like as if people don't have, they don't have any basis for feeling this way about you. Don't act like that. There are numerous cases that we can point to. Numerous. That's my take on it.